A lonely woman in her early 30s sat quietly on a weathered wooden bench in a peaceful neighborhood park on a bright, clear afternoon. The sky was a soft shade of blue with scattered white clouds drifting lazily overhead. Gentle breezes moved through the tall green trees, causing their leaves to rustle with a soothing rhythm. Colorful flowers lined the walking paths, and neatly trimmed grass stretched across the open spaces. Birds hopped across the lawn searching for seeds while distant laughter from children filled the air with life. Despite the cheerful surroundings, the woman seemed completely disconnected from the happiness around her. She wore a simple light blue blouse beneath a cream-colored cardigan, dark jeans, and comfortable white sneakers that showed signs of frequent use. Her shoulder-length dark brown hair was slightly untidy, as though she had hurriedly tied it back earlier before allowing loose strands to fall around her face. Her eyes were tired, with faint shadows beneath them hinting at many restless nights. She held a folded handkerchief tightly in both hands, twisting the fabric absent-mindedly whenever difficult thoughts returned to her mind. The woman stared toward the peaceful pond across the walking path without truly seeing it. Ducks floated calmly across the water while sunlight sparkled on the gentle ripples. Normally such a view might have brought comfort, but today it only reminded her how still and empty everything felt inside her heart. She had come to the park hoping that fresh air and the sounds of everyday life would quiet the heavy emotions she had carried for weeks. Instead, every happy family passing by reminded her of the loneliness she struggled to hide. Parents pushed strollers along the paved paths. Grandparents laughed with energetic grandchildren chasing pigeons across the grass. Friends spread blankets beneath the shade of large oak trees, sharing homemade snacks and cheerful conversations. Every smile she noticed seemed to deepen the silence surrounding her. She lowered her eyes, unwilling to compare her life with theirs any longer. A single tear escaped despite her efforts to remain composed. She quickly wiped it away before anyone nearby could notice. She had promised herself she would stay strong, but sadness often arrived without warning. She took a slow breath, hoping to steady herself, yet memories continued to fill her thoughts. She remembered happier days filled with laughter, conversations that lasted late into the evening, and dreams that once seemed certain. Life had changed so quietly that she had barely realized how isolated she had become until the silence grew impossible to ignore. She adjusted the strap of the small canvas bag resting beside her on the bench. Inside were a water bottle, a paperback novel she had not opened, and a notebook containing unfinished journal entries. She had intended to spend the afternoon reading, but concentration felt impossible. Every page blurred together because her thoughts kept wandering elsewhere. Nearby, colorful swings moved back and forth as children laughed excitedly. A bright red slide reflected the afternoon sunlight while toddlers carefully climbed its steps under the watchful eyes of smiling parents. The joyful sounds floated across the park, carried by the gentle breeze. For a brief moment, the woman closed her eyes and simply listened. The carefree laughter reminded her that kindness and happiness still existed in the world, even if she struggled to feel them herself. She leaned back against the bench, letting the warm sunlight rest gently on her face. The peaceful surroundings continued their ordinary rhythm. A jogger passed along the path with headphones on. A cyclist rang a bell while carefully riding around families. A gardener watered blooming flower beds near the entrance. Life continued moving steadily around her, each person carrying their own story, their own worries, their own hopes. Without realizing it, the woman sighed deeply. Her shoulders relaxed ever so slightly, though her eyes remained distant. She looked across the playground again, watching children invent imaginative games with endless enthusiasm. Their excitement was effortless, untouched by the burdens adults often carried. She admired how easily they trusted the world and how naturally they shared laughter with complete strangers. Unnoticed by the woman, two cheerful 6-year-old twins, a curious little boy with neatly combed brown hair wearing a green t-shirt, denim shorts, and blue sneakers, and his twin sister with dark hair tied into two tidy pigtails wearing a bright pink t-shirt, white shorts, and matching sneakers, paused in the middle of their game. While other children continued running across the playground, the twins quietly looked toward the woman sitting alone on the bench. Their playful smiles slowly faded into expressions of gentle concern as they noticed the sadness in her eyes. Without speaking, they exchanged a thoughtful glance, sensing that something was wrong and wondering how they might help. The two 6-year-old twins slowly walked away from the playground, leaving behind the laughter, bouncing balls, and excited voices of the other children. Their small sneakers tapped softly against the paved pathway as they approached the lonely woman sitting quietly on the weathered wooden bench. The little boy walked slightly ahead, holding a tiny toy car in one hand, while his twin sister carried a small stuffed rabbit tucked gently beneath her arm. Their expressions were filled with innocent curiosity rather than fear. They had noticed the woman sitting alone for quite some time, and although they could not understand the reason for her sadness, they knew she looked as though she needed someone to notice her. The woman remained lost in thought, staring toward the peaceful pond beyond the walking path. Gentle ripples shimmered beneath the bright afternoon sun while ducks drifted calmly across the water. She barely noticed the quiet footsteps drawing closer until a soft little voice interrupted the silence. "Excuse me, ma'am?" She blinked, surprised, and lowered her gaze. Standing only a few feet away were two small children looking up at her with kind, sincere smiles. Their bright faces contrasted completely with the sadness that had settled over her afternoon. The little boy shifted his weight from one foot to the other, gripping his toy car a little tighter. His neatly combed brown hair moved slightly in the gentle breeze. Beside him, his twin sister smiled warmly, her dark pigtails swaying as she tilted her head with genuine concern. She hugged her stuffed rabbit against her chest as though gathering confidence. For a brief moment, no one spoke. The woman quickly brushed away the faint traces of tears beneath her eyes and tried to smile politely. "Hello," she said softly. The twins smiled even wider, encouraged by her gentle voice. The little girl looked carefully at the woman's face before quietly asking, "Are you okay?" The question was so simple that it caught the woman completely off guard. Adults often avoided asking such direct questions, pretending not to notice sadness even when it was obvious. Yet these children had asked without hesitation or judgment. She forced another small smile. "I'm fine," she answered automatically. The twins exchanged another glance. They knew that answer did not match what they had seen. The little boy looked toward his sister before taking one tiny step closer. "You look sad." The woman lowered her eyes again. "I've just had a difficult day." Neither child asked for more explanation. Instead, they stood quietly beside the bench as if simply being present might help. Around them, the park continued its peaceful rhythm. Children chased bubbles floating through the air. A father pushed his laughing daughter on the swings. A golden retriever happily followed its owner along the walking path. Birds chirped from the branches overhead while a cool breeze carried the scent of fresh grass and blooming flowers across the park. The twins remained completely focused on the woman. Their little faces reflected honest concern that could never be rehearsed or taught. The boy suddenly smiled as though an idea had appeared in his mind. He gently nudged his sister. She immediately understood. Both children stepped a little closer to the bench. The little boy looked directly into the woman's watery eyes and spoke with complete sincerity. "Don't cry, ma'am." The woman looked at him, surprised by the tenderness in his voice. He continued without hesitation. "You can borrow our dad." For a second, the entire world seemed to pause. The woman stared at him, uncertain whether she had heard correctly. His sister nodded enthusiastically. "Yes," she added with complete confidence. "He's really nice." The little boy smiled proudly. "He tells funny stories. And he makes pancakes," his sister added. "He gives the best hugs. And he always listens. He helps when people are sad." The woman covered her mouth with one trembling hand as emotion rushed over her unexpectedly. She had expected curiosity. She had expected children to ask questions. She had never expected such extraordinary kindness. The twins continued smiling, completely unaware of how powerful their simple words had become. To them, sharing their father seemed like the most natural solution in the world. Whenever they felt upset, their dad comforted them. Whenever someone needed help, he always stopped. In their minds, kindness was something meant to be shared. The woman felt another tear slide gently down her cheek. This time she did not hide it. Instead, she laughed softly through her tears. It was the first genuine laugh she had allowed herself in many days. The twins smiled proudly, believing they had already made things a little better. The little girl reached into the pocket of her shorts and carefully pulled out a small wrapped candy. She stretched out her tiny hand. "This always makes me happy." The woman accepted it carefully, touched beyond words. "Thank you." The little boy nodded confidently. "Our dad says everyone needs someone," his sister added quietly. "And nobody should stay sad all alone." The woman looked from one child to the other. Their innocence carried a wisdom that many adults spent years searching for. The heavy loneliness she had carried into the park no longer felt quite as overwhelming. For the first time that afternoon, warmth slowly replaced the emptiness inside her heart. She realized that sometimes hope arrived not through grand gestures or perfect solutions, but through the unexpected compassion of two small children who simply refused to walk past someone who looked lonely.